expression. Well, it's also an art. Yeah, rolling, like we're rolling down. We're fucking rolling. Season 2.
Welcome to the Cali High podcast. I'm your host, Chenzo Nico, and I've been a cannabis connoisseur for 50 years. Today we will talk about all things cannabis as they relate to California and beyond, from the history of buds in the state to laws that govern its use, how notable personalities of the industry and related arts, including music, shape the industry. We will bring you reports from dispensaries, cultivators, medical patients, and recreational users.
Good afternoon, Chenzo. How are you, sir?
Marco, I'm great. And you?
Good, man. Guess what?
What?
I'm not wearing any pants. No, just joking.
Well, nobody will ever know, so...
That's what I figured.
I'm just not going to look down. All right.
I'm up here, Vince. I'm up here.
So, episode 20?
Yeah,
No.
bro.
Is
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Oh, my God.
Dude, it's
All
going to be great, dude.
Episode 20.
I'm looking forward to this, dude.
What an amazing episode we're going to have. We got Rick Bibbero, the author of 90 Degrees to Zamboanga.
Yeah, that's all you've been talking about for the last month, dude. I hope this guy's good, dude. I hope he's
the
good.
The book was just a page turner, 500 pages of smuggling adventures.
I'll fix that.
Yeah, I know you will. But anyway, 500 pages of like exciting smuggling adventures from Mexico and to Thailand and across the ocean and back. And what a harrowing bunch of adventures they were.
Yeah, dude, I'm anticipating good, man. Because if anybody is into a book as much as you were into this book, I think it's going to be good, man.
Well, let's just say this for all of our listeners, and let's put it in perspective, okay? When I first started smoking, there was no California buds, there was no gelato, there was no Stravinsky coming up with strains up north, there was no OG.
Yeah, we just didn't want to get paraquat.
Yeah, well, that was later even, but yeah. There was Mexican weed, there was hash from the hash-making countries, and there was Thai weed and Colombian.
The tight stick, because it was tied to his stick.
The Thai weed was wrapped around little sticks.
That's not why they called it Thai
And
stick.
Thai weed was the first seedless weed that was smuggled into the States.
Really? Why is seedless a good thing?
Because there's more bud to smoke and you don't have to throw away your seeds.
Well, there you go, dude.
You know what I mean?
Fucking A, dude. Well, let's do this, man.
All right, let's talk to Rick Bibbero.
All right.
We're gonna do a little Zoom interview. All right.
Here we go.
Here we go. Hey, we're here with Rick Bibbero.
How you doing, Rick?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to this.
Yeah. Rick is the author of 90 Degrees to Zamboanga, great book about smuggling, autobiography written in a kind of a novel style. And it was a great book, Rick. I had a great time reading it.
Yeah, it's all he talked about for about a month. Read this great book, man.
Well,
Okay.
spread it around.
Yeah. So you started in Mexico, walking kilos across the border. Can we talk about the Mexican beginnings in the
Sure.
business?
You know, I was in college at the time. It was 1968. And I'd gotten out of the Army. Of course, we were, I grew up in San Francisco, so smoking weed was one of the things that everybody did. Anyway, so I was in college and, to get some spending money, of course, I would buy a pound of weed and break it up into lids. For all those who don't know what lids are, they were an ounce. Yeah, 2-finger lid, 3-finger lid, whatever. So anyway, we break it up into lids, and I had a clientele, and I'm going to school. I get a call from a friend of mine, one of my lifelong friend. He's going to school down in Arizona, and he's telling me to get down there. These friends of his are walking across the border with kilos on their back, and it's really easy, fun to do. Get down here right away. So
really fun and easy.
Yeah, it's a fun thing, and we can make some money, and it's really cool. And so I go down there, 22 years old, and go down there, and his friends show us how to smuggle across the border, and we do it. One night we do it. We put the kilos on our back and trundled across the arroyo out in the middle of the night, and it was scary as could be.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah,
can imagine.
here we are, a couple of kids out there in the middle of the night. Anything could have happened. We made it.
Yeah.
And that was our first foray into that. And I mean, the adrenaline rush was incredible. Could we do it again?
Oh, yeah. Your connection, what was his name? Jesse?
Jesse,
Yeah.
he was this fat Mexican cab driver, good guy, and I described him in the book, he was this fun-loving, jovial Mexican cabbie, just what you could imagine.
At one point, you actually upped the quality of the Mexican weed.
Well, after the first fiasco, the first load we got back was this Coca-Cola covered weed that was stuck, sticky clumps. It was, we salvaged it.
Yeah.
But we learned, what is it my dad would say? Good judgment is based on experience, and experience is based on bad judgment. We were at the wrong time of the year.
Shout out to Dad.
Yeah, there you go. We were at the wrong time of the year, so we got the dregs.
Mm-hmm.
We learned. So, the next time, we were very careful to go down there and clue him in as to what we wanted, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And we started getting better quality. We did that quite a few times, running across the border. We got ripped off one time. We changed the location of where we would smuggle. We went to the other side of town. It was a much more difficult way. We brought a bunch of people down there to do this 20 mule team Baraxo load.
Yeah, and you guys got lost in the hills.
We got lost, and it was a fiasco, but it worked. And I mean, we brought back a couple of 100 pounds that time.
Yeah.
Well, Willie ended up getting in trouble down there, and a friend of mine, after that, I graduated from college and moved to Aspen, much to my parents' chagrin. But I moved to Aspen, and then an old friend of mine came by, and he was into sailing. Uh-huh. And so he said that he was, he'd been sailing on San Francisco Bay and sailing around the country, and he was crewing on a boat that was returning from Mexico, that it was racing to Mexico and then returning. And so he contacted the skipper who was the sailing master, and he said that he could bring a load back. So he got in touch with me, and I went out and met Dave Killian.
Dave Killian.
Dave was the sailing master, and so I had never sailed before. So this was actually my first sailing experience in my life.
So,
and
how did the operation change once you switched over to the boat?
Well, I mean, the loads got much larger. I mean, now instead of just a few kilos, we could bring a ton back on a boat. And so we organized that. I mean, the first smuggling venture was fiasco after fiasco. We the guy who I thought could get the load couldn't get it, so that turned into a fiasco. One of the guys on the boat actually knew somebody down there, and we scored the load through him.
Oh, was that the
whole sailing? No. This was a guy named Mario. It was Steve's friend, who was one of the crew members of the boat. So we got the load and sailed it north. But that in itself turned into a fiasco because we almost crashed.
Oh yeah.
One of the guys was supposed to be the navigator, and either his sights were wrong or something was wrong, but we were way too close to shore. And in the morning, the night fell, and in the morning you could hear the breakers.
Yeah,
and we were drifting. We had no engine.
The engine was gone
had already gone.
Yeah.
So you could hear the breakers, and we were being pushed into shore. I mean, we were drifting right into shore, and when we could see the shore, it was a steep cliff. There was no beach. So it was like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? And we were all just kind of basically panicked. And Killian was at the helm, and just intently staring at the wind, and there was a little tiny breeze. Maybe it was caused by the offshore break itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it finally gave us a little bit of wind and pushed us away from that. And, after that, or actually, I guess before that, we went into Turtle Bay. That was another fiasco because, Killian, who was used to bringing these boats back at Turtle Bay, which was a stop-off point on the return trip, everybody went crazy.
Oh, yeah.
They shoot flares off in the harbor, all this crazy stuff. And here we had this load on the boat.
Nothing like bringing a little attention.
Killian's going crazy, and it was like, oh my God, we're going to get busted. Well, he's drunk. He took some mescaline. I mean, it was just weird.
Yeah.
But anyway,
You made it back.
well, I mean, that wasn't the only thing. We had a patrol boat make a beeline right for us, a Mexican patrol boat.
Oh, yeah.
That would sure make you pucker. And so I mean, then we sailed into, up into California. Sailed right past an aircraft carrier with all the, we had joints in our hand and we're kind of waving to them. Anyway, night falls and we're into Marina Del Rey. You have to sail about 2 miles down this channel to get to the Del Rey Yacht Club where we were going to unload. But there's no wind, middle of the night, no engine, and we're short tacking down the Del Rey Harbor. Turn around and there's a patrol boat right behind us. The harbor patrol with a light on us. And it's like, oh God, now what? Killian turns around, hey, it's cool, we're cool. We're coming from Mexico, we have no engine. I mean, the guy was just, it didn't matter. He was
He was good.
He was not only good, as years went by, I came to realize he was the perfect smuggler because he just looked the part of one of these yacht people who, this air of arrogance about them, and nobody's going to question them, and nobody did. I mean, he was that cool. So as Mexico happened, we got tons and tons and tons, several trips following that.
One time you almost got busted in San Francisco Bay, right? And you
well, that was much later. That was on the that was about the third Thai trip.
Oh, that's right. I'm getting my trip.
That's the third Thai trip.
Yeah.
We loaded. We had loaded several boats.
Okay.
And
let's back up a bit.
Yeah.
So tell me about your progression from novice sailor to navigator.
Well, I was always kind of a student, and when the sailing adventure started, I paid attention. And Killian was a great teacher. He gave me a book when we first met called Royce's Sailing Illustrated, which is the Sailor's Bible. And it's a kind of a pictorial book that describes everything about sailing. And I memorized that book. So by the time we actually started sailing, I pretty much had the jargon down, pretty much had the idea. And, I just learned. It was like on-the-job training.
Yeah.
And I just learned how to do it. And then one thing led to another as I got more proficient at it. I got into the navigational part of it and just kept learning. It was always a learning experience for me.
Yeah, how do you factor in like navies and Coast Guard and everybody?
That goes into my next question, Rick, which is, can you just tell us about your philosophy? Think good thoughts.
I mean, it's so funny that's one of your things, because I had just written about that.
I thought that was a great philosophy. It still is.
Yeah, let me just get to it. It sounds really simple. I mean, it's just think good thoughts, and that's been a recurrent theme throughout the book. But it really means a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And
it sure does.
You can say it. You can say, well, think good thoughts, but it's such a deep concept. You have to believe it, and it has to go to your soul.
Oh yeah, it's
just manifesting all this, and that's brilliant.
And I described it in Marty's situation because I thought that was
he was not able to think good thoughts.
Way Well, he was, but he didn't. He just didn't. He didn't have that instinctiveness about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I said some people are born with it, and some people acquire it.
Yeah.
And you know, JQ, who did exactly the same thing as Marty,
But did it in the priest outfit, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
he was able to pull it off because he believed in what he was doing so deeply that he didn't have to think about it.
Yeah, he
it was
didn't
a
break
natural,
character from the
yeah, it was a
religious
natural
mission.
occurrent thing.
Yeah.
For me, I had to learn it. It was an acquired skill for me.
Uh-huh.
It happened over time. You know, I got busted when I was young in Chicago,
Yep.
and you know, I
Clearance didn't help.
I transitioned through customs many times, and over time, I was able to develop that attitude.
Yeah.
And even get a little assertive about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, you know, it made a difference because if they're coming down on you and you're just taking it, you're just defenseless, they just keep coming.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going through customs, but if you're able to say something to stop them and make them think about it, they just do
Yeah,
they
'cause
just
they're
do
not
their job.
usually the brightest bulbs on the tree.
Well, even
No.
whatever, but they have that power
Yeah,
over
they
you
do.
at that moment.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter
And
whether they're
trained
smart
to
or
look.
stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be able to react in a way that's going to keep you safe.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think a lot of this, I mean, just kind of really doing, I mean, everybody does it for the money, but the rush, yeah, you kind of mentioned it a little bit something before. It's just that constant, like, seeing if you can get away with it thing.
Well, I don't even know whether it's that. It gets, you know, to me, it was never about the money. It was always about the adventure, I mean, the money came into play. Sure, when you make millions, I mean, obviously it's going to come into play. But for me, it was always do what you're supposed to do a good job, and the money will be there. Don't focus on it. That was Marty's problem. He focused on it, I think, and that just detracted him from the mission. You know, I think that's, you know, if you pay attention to what you're doing, the money will be there if you do it right and you get lucky. So I think that's.
Let's talk about how you met Pat Surakumkon and turned to Thailand as a source of high quality cannabis.
Well, we were doing, you know, we were doing trips from Mexico, and it was very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Pat was working for another group, and he was their construction guy. He would construct trailers. They would buy trailers and gut them and then rebuild them with everything smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So they would create a space in between the inside of the trailer and the outside of the trailer, and they packed that with pot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they could get about 200 pounds per load per trip. Pat was their construction guy. He constructed their trailers and did that. But there were several mishaps,
Mm-hmm.
and Pat, you know, they wanted to continue on, but Pat wanted to be paid for the work that he'd done. And they were saying, well, we got to work and you know, you'll get paid later. And he was very insistent. He'd been working for all that time and he wanted to take a break. They were ferrying him back and forth from Guadalajara to San Francisco every week to load these trailers, and he was burning out.
Yeah.
So he wanted to be
burned him.
paid. He wanted to be paid, and they said, we're not going to pay you right now. We're going to wait to build some more capital. And he got very indignant, and they paid him a little bit, and he said, screw it, I'm leaving, I'm quitting. So I had known him because I had known the other group, and I knew him. And actually, when he blew up at these people, he came to my house because he really had nowhere to go because he was living with them. So he came to my house, and we discussed it, and he said he was finished with them. He was going back to Thailand. He was an exchange student. And he was going to go back to Thailand. And I said, well, you know, maybe I could come and visit you. And maybe we could try something on our own without the other groups. So he left, and a month later, I flew over there, and we traveled all around up to Nepal. And, you know, we contemplated a different type of trip. Could it be a hash trip? Could it be a Thai weed trip? And we looked at all the possibilities of what we could do. And we came, you know, he was from Thailand, His grandfather had a ranch in southern Thailand that we could use as a staging area. So we decided that was the way to go, and we put that whole thing together.
The durian farm.
Actually, it was like a rambutan, which is another fruit.
I know.
Yeah,
Rambutan.
another fruit over there.
It's called
and,
no.
Yeah, no. Anyway, the durian farm came later.
Oh, did
But I got to like durian, and I thought it was really appropriate, your question about that.
Yeah. So, describe your impressions of Thailand when you first got there.
You know, I mean, when I first arrived to Thailand, it was in June of '73, and I mean, it was like being on a different planet.
Oh yeah.
Get off the plane. I mean, it's hotter than hell. You're just sweating to death, first of all, and that hits you first of all, and then the smell. You know, it's like, oh my God, this humidity, and you know, you're at the airport, so there's that smell, but there's all the smell of humanity too.
Oh yeah.
And the oppressive heat. And then when you're going into town, you know, you're looking at all the signs. You can't read anything. Everything looks like it's hieroglyphics, like it's a different language. It is. You can't understand anything. You can't read anything. You can't understand anything. You know, you just get me to the hotel. I need a shower and a beer.
Yeah.
That was the first impression, you know. But after a while, you kind of get into the flow of it, and I just loved it. I mean, it was such a new experience for me, and I just ate it up.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Thailand was very, very wonderful myself. I didn't get there till '81, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was there in '73, '74, and then on through the '80s.
Yeah. Well,
So I loved it. I mean, it was just I probably could have lived there.
can you describe how the operation began and the first load?
Yeah. So we'd had some experiences, obviously, from Mexico with pot getting wet and stuff like that. And now we were faced with a several-month journey where before it maybe been 1 month. So there's going to be a lot more exposure and everything. So we contemplated all of that. We came up with a packaging system. We really, the first trip was just regular plastic bags. We used a vacuum cleaner and an iron to seal the bags, and that was a kind of a seat of the pants on that first trip. We just used regular plastic bags that we were able to get over there, and a vacuum and an iron to seal it. And we double, triple bagged them, and it worked. But after that, we said, wait a minute, we need to revolutionize this whole thing. We found sealing machines, commercial sealing machines in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
We found oxygen moisture barrier bags, Mylar bags, which we acquired. And we acquired all this in San Francisco. So there was also the issue of all that cash, spending all that cash.
Oh, yeah.
Which was scary. We ultimately got several machines and sent them to Thailand. But the bags, we had hundreds of thousands of bags, and we found a source in Japan where we could buy them for cash, and it was no big deal. Cash in this country was crazy. Yeah. But over there, the rest of the world, cash talks. So you do all your cash stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you kept all your cashier's checks under 10,000.
Well, that was part of it.
Yeah.
But the revolutionizing of the packaging was really what came out of that, because those Mylar bags are used today. I mean, that's how it's all done today. It also set the tone for the computer, because all the computer chips were packaged in sanitary conditions using Mylar bags. That's how that happened.
Interesting.
As a result of our, pot in those bags.
Macintosh,
I'm sure
thanks
Steve
you.
Jobs must have broken open one of those and got a
Probably
flash.
did, because it all happened before, I mean, it was all part of the progression.
Yeah. So let me ask you another question. Can you describe the
to me, the main thing about the Thai weed, which was so unique, was its smell. It had this characteristic smell that I've never been able to find anywhere else.
Spicy.
Sweet, spicy. I don't exactly know how to describe it. It's unique. It's just unique and it's different. And, you know, we had the right of refusal, which was another point in our success.
Yes.
Because we were able to go to the growers and tell them what we wanted. And we were also able to tell them not to give us stuff that we didn't want. And if they did, we wouldn't pay them for it and throw it away.
Yeah.
And we developed that right of refusal, which really nobody else had. And so, you know, they could get the lower quality and we would get the higher quality. There's only so much on the plant.
Yeah. Well,
So that's how we did it.
I know. I smoked some of that.
And we educated the growers and their families of how to make the sticks and how to make them look nice, and how to we sized them for them, and they did it, and it was fantastic. The whole family, all the families got into it. You know, the children and the grandmothers and the mothers, and they all did putting it on sticks, and the guys all did the harvesting.
A lot of work to wrap those buds on those sticks.
Right.
Our listeners don't remember Thai sticks, most of them
I
anyway.
remember. I'm old.
Marco does. But yeah.
He's tied to a stick.
They were wrapped on little pieces of bamboo stick and you said they were hemp threads?
I think it was a hemp thread, you know, that they're very fine hemp thread that they, you know, that plus the stickiness of the pot itself would adhere it to the stick.
Yes.
And it also made for really good transportation because it had a uniform shape. And so you didn't have a round, you know, ball. You had a uniform shape that was easy to stack.
Right.
And that I think was part of the reason for the sticks as well.
Can I ask you a question as far as like you're saying the right of refusal? I mean, how did you get that, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, because, you know, I was working with a Thai, and it wasn't like we were working with middlemen. Okay. We were right at the source. Okay. So in talking to the source, this is how we explained it to them.
Okay.
Of what we were all about, and that our big thing was quality. My thing was quality. It had always been quality, you know, and I had that reputation. So when we went to Thailand, I maintained that reputation for quality. Other people didn't care so much. I did.
And the village was up in the northeast
Thailand,
northeast, up by the Lao border.
Yeah, close to the Lao border, north of Sakunakan, south of Nong Khai. It was right in that little area. That's where, but a lot of it was grown in Laos too.
Yeah,
up around Vientiane. That was another big growing area.
Yeah, I'd sure like to get some seeds.
Yeah.
Just, you know what? The funny thing is, Thai weed was seedless. It was some of the first smuggled weed that was consistently seedless.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sure there are seeds that can be had. I mean, the first seeds that really came to California were from Pakistan. The first seeds that really got that thing going.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. A friend of mine, you know, was telling me about how a Pakistani friend of his smuggled seeds in the stitching of his suit. You know, he would stitch it into the suit and then wear his suit.
Yep.
That's how they got their seeds in Northern California.
Wow. Well, I was never into Pakistani hash too much, but...
Well, the pot, though, was good. You know, in Afghani and Pakistan, the actual pot, before they made it into hash, was very good.
Yeah,
you know, very similar.
I got some growing in my backyard right now.
There you go.
How about the Cambodian village of, well, okay. So let's describe that first ocean crossing going back.
Yeah, well, it took us a year of planning to put that whole trip together.
Right.
There was modifications to the boat. There was the scoring and getting the whole situation in Thailand with Pat's grandfather's ranch, getting that all organized. So there was a year's worth of work to do before we actually did the trip. And it also involved timing, so we would get the load at the best possible time, so it would be freshest, because we still had months ahead of us of the ocean crossing. So we prepared the boat. That took quite a while, and got the crew together, and we set sail in July of '74.
Year I graduated high school.
Yeah. And it was a hell of an undertaking, to actually weigh anchor and set forth on a thousands of miles journey across the ocean. Yeah.
How big was the boat?
The boat was
41 feet, 4 guys.
Yeah.
Wow.
So 41 feet is, it's not even as big as a school bus.
Yeah.
So, we sailed across the ocean. It took us a couple of months, and that's where the origination of the title of the book came. In that sail. That was just the most adventurous part of the whole book was that trip.
When you came the second time, you shipped the boat to Singapore? And then sailed? That was Willie's idea. I don't want to sail across the ocean with Dave and his proclivities and his weirdness. I'd rather just send the boat. That way I only have to be with him one way. Yeah.
So we did it. We sent the boat over, and we did that twice. And I think it probably brought heat on us. Well, what happened was...
Well, Mancuso also bought the boat in the same way, which is what brought the heat on.
I think so.
Yeah.
It was either that or us doing it multiple times. And then there's another boat that did exactly the same thing. So I think some eyebrows were raised at that. And because we used the same boat 3 times.
Right. The Nepenthe.
So, Nepenthe. And it was probably a stupid move.
Nepenthe.
Yeah. And Nepenthe, I told you about that, was the name of that boat. It was like a drug from the days of ancient history.
It's in the
Iliad.
It's also in Edgar
Troy.
Allan Poe's The Raven.
That's right. That's right.
Quaff, Nepenthe.
Yeah. So that was a big coincidence, that the name of the boat and what we were doing when we acquired that boat.
Yeah, it's not like I have a friend who had a big boat, and the boat's called Drug Money. And it's like when you call the Coast Guard, you go, Coast Guard, there's drug boat.
So,
you do all those weird things. I had a friend who had a boat named the Cunning Linguist. You do all that
better
kind of
with
stuff
the Coast
with
Guard.
boats, But I think part of it is trying to be cool and not be stupid.
So the first time when you came through the Philippines, you went through the trench just before the Philippine and the Zulu Sea. Was that the first sail from San Francisco all the way to Thailand?
And back. Yeah, that was the first.
You had, there wasn't much wind, and you were running out of gas and stopping to fill up, and you ended up having to pull in to a Cambodian village, Kampong Som.
Yeah, Kampong Som, which is, it's right next to the summer palace of the former Prime Minister, Prince
in
Prince
Sihanoukville.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah.
And so we didn't want to, we rounded, the war is going on, the Vietnam War is going on right now, and they're bombing, the secret bombing of Cambodia is going.
Right.
We were running out of gas, running out of fuel in the Gulf of Thailand. So we looked at the chart and looked like there was a place we could stop, this Kampong Som. So we pulled in there. I've never seen anything so weird in my life. We pulled in as it's dusk, it's getting dark. You can see the fires going in the background. You can hear bombs going in the background. And we pull up to the quay, and there's all these ragtag soldiers with these guns slung over their shoulder, standing, waiting for us. Very stern-looking people,
Jesus
to say the least. So we pull in, we in our best French, which that's where Willie,
Willie,
shined.
yeah.
He actually spoke a little bit of French. We requisitioned some fuel, so we had to go out into the jungle to get this fuel on like a 3-wheeled jitney with a 55-gallon drum on the back of it. Driving out into the jungle, there's like a string of lights, which is the only lighting overhead. Maybe 1 in 10 bulbs was lit. You can hear the bombs going off in the background from the U.S. bombing Cambodia.
B-52s.
And you can feel the concussions as we're out there in the jungle getting gas. You don't know whether we're going to be attacked or what out there. Who knows? Well, we got the fuel, went back, rushed back there and pumped the fuel on board and got out of there as quickly as we could. Come to find out, that was where the Mayaguez incident happened 6 months later. Mm-hmm. But also come to find out that a couple of sailors doing the same thing were caught by the Khmer Rouge right about that time, and they were executed and burned to death.
I think it was that bottle of wine.
Well, it's in a book. Yeah, we gave them a bottle of wine, and, they were happy, and we left. But these other people got caught, and they got killed.
Yeah, that's
so,
not
cool. It was a very precarious situation.
Yeah, did you worry about, like, CIA or anybody looking at you guys as spies or anything, since it's wartime?
Well, there was always a thought, there was always that kind of thought process going on. I mean, what else could happen out there?
Yeah, man. Wow. I am like just on the edge of my seat, man.
Well, so, that's where we were.
At this point, Rick, you want to read us a little, like an excerpt?
Yeah. We crossed into the Philippines. I think this is a pretty good one because it really describes the story and how we came on this title. So we crossed into the Philippines on the trip over, and we stopped at a small village of Dumaguete, which is on one of the islands of in the Sulu Sea, and we got groceries, and the grocer told us that, hey, there are pirates in here, but there's also could be weather in here. So I'll start right here. We entered the Sulu Sea on about November 5th, the same time that Typhoon Gloria, a Category 4 with winds up to 140 miles an hour, struck the northern Philippines. It appears that we had only been hit by the outer edges of the storm as its primary track and eye passed well to our north. However, with the counterclockwise cyclonic movement of such a storm, combined with 75-mile-per-hour winds we experienced coming from mainly the northeast, it's no wonder we were blown off course and pushed to the southwest, which is indeed where we found ourselves.
Jesus, so dude, does anything scare you now? Like, probably nothing, right?
Well, I've kind of been through it, and yeah, I don't know. Stuff still does kind of scare me, but it's like, well, you've been through this. I guess you can handle whatever.
Yeah, man. My asshole's puckered just listening to us. I gotta read this book.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when it's all going on, you don't really realize all that.
I mean, so you weren't really aware of it, or you just do it?
You're aware of it. You're aware of what's happening, and you're aware that you could die at any minute.
Right.
But you have to do your best not to let that happen.
Exactly. Yeah, man. Wow, dude. All right, man. Holy crap, dude. That was fucking good.
What was your favorite part?
Dude, I just think like actually when he was reading, bro, it was like getting the story right from the horse's mouth, man.
Yeah.
That guy was.
I saw you getting a little anxious over there, bro.
Dude, I was like ready to jump off the ship, bro. I was like so fucking nervous, man. That was.
You just keep when you're reading, you're like flipping the pages and you're like, what the?
Yeah, dude. I mean, when you were talking about it, I was like, hey, yeah, the book's better than blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
but dude, really I'm actually gonna buy it and read it because that was.
I'll loan you the.
You
buy it.
Yeah, I know. I think it's to support the guy, man.
Everybody in the soy cowboy. Everybody in the Cali High audience needs to go out and read this book, especially if you ever thought about whoever came up with the weed before you started smoking it at the dispensary.
Yeah, even dude, if you just like
know what we're talking about.
Even if you just want a great adventure story, I mean, wow, holy crap, I couldn't imagine that stuff, dude.
It was, that guy
And
was
I know I
intense.
must have smoked some because I smoked the finest of Thai sticks. I remember when it went bad, and I'm looking at the time, the years, and it totally corresponded with the falling apart of the Thai weed scene.
Plus, he was just cool as hell, dude. He was just, I mean, that guy was like, you know, I mean, yeah, dude, I was just, yeah. He was real. He was, I think he, you know, actually, like, honestly regrets some of his stuff. And,
Very intelligent.
Yeah,
He's
super
got a great
intelligent,
style
man.
as well in his
Yeah,
writing.
just super, super great. Well, way with the words, as I said last time.
So anyway, get Rick Bibbero's book, 90 Degrees to Zamboanga.
Yeah, you don't have to smoke pot to enjoy it either.
No.
Well, it probably help, but it you don't need it.
No, it's a great book.
Great guy.
Like I said, he reminds me of a cross between Herman Melville, who wrote Moby Dick, and James Michener, who
Get it
wrote
right this time.
Shogun, and
Yeah,
Taipei, and
that
a
other
few
book,
others
yeah.
about the and Hawaii. He wrote Hawaii as well. Anyway, great adventure story, folks.
Yeah, man, we
Okay.
definitely need to go back and revisit with him again because that guy's got some stories, bro. Holy crap!
Absolutely.
Well, that was fun. You did a good job as usual.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for being here.
Yeah,
again.
thank you for being here, man.
the sound guy.
Yeah, man, it's good.
What am I going to say? I was going to say stay tuned for part 2 of 90 Degrees to Zamboanga next week, folks.
Yeah, man.
Sorry to keep you on the edge of your chairs.
All right, if you got to take a pee break, I'll do it now. We got a week. Okay.
Well, folks, we have this great adventure story, and we're going to cut it in two, and so you're going to have to wait till next week to see what happens to Rick. In the meantime, we also going to have to wait till next week. Oh, this is amazing. To see what happens with the Thai weed from this book. We're going to read the rest of it next week, okay? So, stay tuned, and we'll see you then.